afternoon, good evening. Welcome everyone sa lahat ng mga taga-GlobalLinker, sa lahat ng mga nanonood. This is our season finale for our 2020 Negosyo Spotlight. And you know what? Today, dahil very special ito, nakikita niyo naman ibang-iba ang aking background. Hindi po ako naka-Zoom ngayon. Hindi ako naka-Google Meets, hindi ako naka-webinar. But I'm actually here today and I'm physically with one of a very special SME mentor, educator, coach, and a personal friend of mine who will share with us a lot, not just about her experience in running a business, but also her experience in helping and how does she coach? How does she coach other SME owners and business owners? So today, I'd like to welcome, okay, matagal ko na siyang gustong i-guest talaga sa GlobalLinker special na to. I'd like to welcome Dore. Hi, Dore! Finally, I was able to get you to guest to this show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Ako din, actually, tagal na kitang gusto mag-meet in person.
Exactly. How many months has it been? We met around mga what, March? April, May?
April, oo.
Yeah, grabe.
We were feeling close ako eh. So, I interviewed you, and then, ayun na. Finally.
We had a show in your V81 talk show, right. Tapos every time that I see you make a post, uy, sikat, iba na naman yung picture mo sa... I remember there was one webinar you did na medyo iba yung picture mo dun sa...
It changes.
So Dory, so to introduce you to our members, tell us more about yourself as a person. First, as a person.
So, I'm a person who loves to learn, literally. That's one thing about me. I've never stopped studying. So, I finished my PhD in business. That's the most recent course I took. And nakakatawa kasi I also took my BS in accountancy almost at the same time. No?
Wait. So you're taking accounting undergrad, and then you're taking
PhD in business. I did that, a year ago, 2 years ago.
But what was your undergrad?
It's really management. It's a 5-year ladder-based program in UANP called Master of Science in Management. So at that time, I really knew what I wanted to do, and all of these things are part of it. So next year, hindi na naman ako matatapos. I'm going back to law school. And all of these I do because it's not, of course, it's for my own growth as a person, but really to help others more. And of course, in business kasi these are the 2 things na kailangan.
Alright. Yeah. Management,
it's the numbers side, it's the legal foundations. And personally, I had a lot of experiences, no, na alam ko na kailangan talaga ng knowledge in terms of numbers and legal foundation. So, I'm speaking from so much hugot, as you may call it. No? So there.
Grabe, so you're taking all these. Nakakaya naman kasi ako, I did not even finish my master's degree. I mean, I took all the academic units of industrial psychology. But I'm now a banker. So I don't know what happened to my spending in school and all. But anyway, kasi ayoko na. But here you are, you're even gonna take law school afterwards, which, looking at it, once you see the holistic, all the touch points of how an SME, a business owner, or generally all those things, mas mag-guide mo sila na mas maganda.
Yeah, and I'm speaking not just again for myself, pero yun nga, I'm also an educator. So at least, mas madami ako maituturo. Because I teach entrepreneurship and management subjects. And for me to be able to do so, kailangan I can give them additional knowledge, kumbaga plus. Kasi the way I speak, parang with all my feelings, and when I teach and when also I coach micro-entrepreneurs, sobrang importante na. Because we all know na like with legalization permits, filing of BIR, ito yung mga mahirap eh. Diba? And these are things na
mga tao yun.
Yeah, and hindi mo siya malalaman unless na pagdaanan mo. Except that of course for now, madaming webinars on how to properly facilitate these things. No? Pero iba pa rin pag ikaw as a business owner, you know.
So I would, the way you're saying it, I would assume that when you do your teaching, when you're, parang school setup? So you teach in schools?
Yeah, I teach in universities.
Cool. Nasaan?
Various universities, so that's one of them. Ateneo is one of them, and UANP as well. So wala akong kinikilingan.
Yeah, no,
Pag UAAP, ganun.
What I mean is, you are the kind of educator who I wish I had back in college, because number one, yeah, you're pretty. And number two is that you can talk more beyond the theories and the books.
Yeah.
You can talk more about the actual experiences that paglabas nyo sa classroom na to, tandaan nyo, ito yung mangyayari sa inyo. Which a lot of college students are not getting. Well, back in my days, I don't know now, but diba mas yung real life experience what you expect. So,
Yeah.
mas ganun yung dating.
The way I teach is that I tell them at the onset, we're going to be more practical. So, of course, there's theory. Kasi may exams, may quizzes, whatsoever. Part yan ng curriculum. But each student or group, kasi if it's entrepreneurship management, group work yan. Diba? It's like a real organization wherein they fulfill different functions of management. May roles sila. So, I always make them go out into the field, no? Like, it's either they have their own business, they find a company, they find, learn more about the company, and eventually come up with possible solutions, recommendations for issues. Kasi that's how it is. Kasi you cannot really memorize the theories. You can only remember them if you are going through them or you're applying them. So parang in a sense, they're a consultant. They serve as a consultant of these businesses. And kung kanila man yun as a family business, they're able to apply it. So it's the best learning experience for me.
Which is good, because it looks like you're accelerating the learning based on real life scenarios versus yung, okay, minemorize ko yung 5 chapters ng libro, tapos pagdating ko, paglabas ko, hindi ganun yung experience ko. So I became very idealistic na parang, hindi, alam ko ganito yung mangyayari kasi sinunod ko yung theory of ganito. But it's not the case.
Because that's how I also learned.
That's how you learn.
Yeah, that's how I learned. And, well, there are different types of people, diba? May mga tao na they learn from others' experience. Whereas I would say that I learned more from my experience, which is, well, mas mahal, if you may say. No? Kasi there were times wherein, I go to class, I'm very studious, ganyan. Pero, during the time that I was finishing my 5-year program, when I was about to take masters, may mga theories na I kind of got bored. So, in between, I set up a business. At the time, I was into food businesses for some reason. And I realized na, shucks, if only I took my master's while I was doing my business, alam ko na yung business law, the project management, other things na pwede palang i-apply.
Yeah. So now, we can say, because my background is psychology, that you are a multiple personality.
Yes.
Hindi naman disorder, no? Multiple personality, good order, if you want to call it. You're an educator. You're a businesswoman. You're a coach. Because an educator normally is different from a coach.
Yeah.
You're also a mentor. Ano pa ba? What else do you do?
I write.
You're a writer.
I write, and I also do hosting as well.
You're an actress.
Naku, hindi.
Host lang. Hosting.
Host,
Okay.
Pwede na naman mag-act kung kailangan sa hosting. But I mean, no, that's just a joke. But it's more of me hosting because I really like to speak and what do you call this? Encourage people, motivate people.
Grabe, if we have people like serial entrepreneurs, yours is a different name altogether. You're a serial person, whatever they want to call it. But yeah, it's okay. So we're starting to learn about Dory as a person, and then I'm sure for a fact that you will really pursue continuous education.
For sure.
So that's one of the things that you really value, because you want to download that things you learn, apply it to yourself, and help others learn through your own experiences.
Yes.
That's
In fact, one of the things that we did during this pandemic together with partners is to come up with a platform. It's called Dear Dore, wherein you can write to me.
Parang Dear Diary, Dear Dore.
Something like that.
What was that? I don't know. I know you look younger than me, so definitely we could be still part of the millennial generation,
Yes, we are.
but maybe in two different spectrums. But yun, ano yan, maalaala mo kaya, yung ganong klase.
But in
Dear
this-
Ate Helen.
Yeah. Familiar naman ako doon, in fairness, no? So, here at Dear Door, basically, you can write about anything. I may not be a psychologist, but of course, understanding the persona of different individuals also is part of the things that you do when you assess yourself as to whether you want to become an entrepreneur, right, or work in corporate. So it's a dream actually that started with a partner of mine. We were just talking about these things, and then eventually we grew to become a team, and we're still building it on it actually. And this is where at least whatever I learn, whatever I can share, would be somewhat digitized and would stay there. Whether it's in the form of ebooks, in the form of master classes, videos. It's really about sharing and learning. It's that.
Nice. So it's a very giving type of venture.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about Dore as the business owner, right? So we'll talk about the different ventures that you did, things like that.
Okay. First business that I set up was actually a pivoted business from that of my grandfather. We have a business that's in consulting, but it's more of technical consultancy. Since my grandfather and my parents, everyone in the family, they're engineers.
Okay,
I'm not.
malayo.
So I realized that I'm more of in management. But before I started my business, I worked for them. I did everything. Everything, all the areas of management. I was the one na halos pinapadala ako sa iba-ibang lugar. And I had to figure out things by myself and find ways to survive the business. But it's a very, very good training, very traditional. So the business, my grandfather's business, was for 30 years, and then I came in when I was 16.
16 years
16.
old, you got exposed to
I was
business.
exposed. What I did then was, do paperwork, yung paglalakad sa bangko, mga permits, ganyan. Meet clients, and most of them kasama ko ng bata ko. So when I would go there, alam nila, ay, ikaw ba yung apo ni ganito? And then yung dating kasama na madaldal, ganun. Sabi ko, ay, ako po yan.
And did you end up calling them titos and titas?
Yeah, I couldn't help it.
Yes.
Kasi family corporation siya. So, what I did was, at first, my grandfather told me, since mahilig ka naman mag-aral ate, gusto mo ba mag-engineering? But I said no, politely. And of course, he was still supportive. So, nangyari, I turned it into a management consultancy firm. And since I have credentials, like I did certified franchise executive program, small certificate courses, certified management accountancy, certified human resources practitioner, because I wanted to have certifications in each function of management.
Okay.
Kasi nga, I wanted to become more holistic when I teach.
Yeah.
So at that time, I said, okay, management consultancy. So what are the things that I have done before? Facilitation of permits, coming up with manuals. So I kind of shifted.
So you used your experiences from being 16-year-old to that point. I'm not gonna ask what age to that point. And then, since kabisado mo yung area na yun, plus the new knowledge you came in, yun yung ginawa mong focus no, yung management consultancy.
Kasi it's really the strengths that you have, whatever's available, no?
Yeah, exactly.
Service. So yun.
What was the biggest challenge in all the companies that you've had, personally to you, was the key ingredient kung saan ka natuto kaya naging successful ka sa mga sumunod na ventures?
It's really the starting point of a business. In a business, there's a life cycle. It's the start.
The click start.
Yeah, kasi you have to be very committed na, syempre at the start, wala kang clients. Diba? And you have very little funds na kailangan mong paikutin. Diba? And
walang gusto magpautang.
Exactly. So, mahirap siya because even then if you can possibly try to reach out to relatives, right? Mahirap na eh. You wouldn't know kasi business is always a risk. So, the hardest part is surviving that startup stage. Kasi me having a business alone and me having a business with partners, those are also two different things, no? And alone, yun yung masasabi ko, it's the dedication. Kasi wala, hindi ka 8 to 5, hindi ka 9 to 6. And I also work aside from having my businesses, part-time as in universities, no? So, it's a matter of finding, sige, imbis na ipamper ko sarili ko, I'll just save muna what I have. Kasi baka mamaya, bigla na lang may unforeseen circumstance, like one of the businesses before na food, yung Dory, after I decided to close it down, wash out lahat. So imagine if you were to undergo such risks, wala kang emergency funds.
Yes.
That's really one thing. Another would be, when it comes to businesses with partners naman, would be the relationship. Kasi dapat talaga aligned, you know. Because, well, iba-iba yung personality ng tao. But if you all have the same goal, and you're really in it together, and you know that there's something in store for the business, that's also a key ingredient that will mitigate the failure. Kasi yun talaga siya, it's a start. Once you get off that starting point, like magkaroon ng clients na, may revolving fund ka na, the next would be, sige, how do we have repeat customers? How do we find more? Kasi in the service businesses, unlike food, diba? Meron kang masarap na pagkain. You have something tangible to sell. But in service, you can never prove. Like, for example, when I say nga, digital production, kailangan mo ng portfolio. Siyempre, una tatanungin sa'yo, sino ba naman naging kliyente mo?
Yes,
right?
yes.
And it's very hard to answer that question because you need a lot of depth. Depende na lang sa magiging client mo if he or she is willing to risk with you.
Yes.
Yun lang, no? So it's the credibility of the person at stake.
Right.
So, yun.
You mentioned kanina, of course, there's a different. So the key challenge is really when you're starting up, and in fact, I'm hearing also some of our SME customers and some friends and partners na they're really saying, hindi ko alam kailan ako pwede magsimula ulit. Kasi they're saying, kasi in their mind, it's more like, gusto ko bumalik sa dati. Prior to pandemic, prior to all this crisis. I want things to go back as before. Kasi siguro for them, nalagpasan ko na yung startup phase nalagpasan ko na yung startup stage. And again, that's the biggest hurdle. And kung mag-startup ulit ako during the pandemic or after the pandemic, parang ayaw nilang gawin. So, ikaw, what do you foresee coming 2021 if ever na talaga matapos itong pandemic? Is it going to be like what they are saying na makakabalik tayo sa dati? Or do we tell everyone, you know what, just prepare? Because now, everyone, even large companies, I can say, are going back to that startup phase.
Well, for me, hindi na natin mababalik yung dati. As dramatic as it may sound. It's really the new normal, di ba? Medyo gasgas na yung hashtag na yun.
Yes.
And it's really digitization. That's very important. Which, for us naman, as Filipinos, okay siya. Kasi I think we're the number one in the use of Facebook, di ba?
Yeah, but for other things.
Yeah, for other things. These are the tools, quote-unquote, that they can use. That's number one. Kailangan talaga maging digital sila. Second, yun nga, it's very traumatic. Lalo na kapag andun ka na nakalagpas ka na dun sa startup nasa growth ka na diba? Yung iba nga nasa maturity stage na
Yes.
Tapos biglang boom, wala. They have to take loans, sarado lahat. I mean, fortunately naman, madaming like reprieves, but it's still not enough. It's not just the financial aspect. You know, I mean, you being a psychologist or took up psychology, rather, it's also something in the mind and emotions na kailangan mag-reflect kung talagang gusto pa. That's painful as it may seem. You have to first reflect, okay, is this what I want to do? Okay? If it is, then I know it's easier said than done. I also went through this reflection stage. If I do want it, I'll proceed. How? You'll have to definitely review your business model, work within whatever you have, and we have always heard the word pivot, which is important. No? Kaya may tools, diba, like business model canvas. We had to do that. Even with clients, we had to do that. Kasi there are things that are no longer applicable.
Okay.
And then assets that have to be liquidated, for instance, just to be able to pay if you're in debt or whatever, liabilities, employee salaries, for example. No? So it's important to reflect first and then really see if that's something. Like, for example, in our case, the production, it used to be just on-site. Ang daming kalaban din dyan. But we have to be digital. We have to see, okay, where is the possible opportunity, diba, that we can at least try to build on. It's still a risk. We'll never know, right? Ang daming magsusulputan dyan. Like food, for example. You start with sushi bake, ang dami, diba? So, pero madami pa rin pwede mag-order. You cannot satisfy the entire population.
Yes.
There's still
the demand will,
yeah, the demand is still there. That's what I believe. So, if I were to sum it all up, no, number one, digital will be there in 2021. This I always say, no, you have to still maintain the positive outlook and pray. And number three, of course, it's really passion and perseverance. If you love what you're doing or what you've done, you really, really have to persevere. And I cannot express how much highlight I have to have in that word. No? Kumbaga, kung pwedeng ilagay yun in text form, talagang super bold, highlighted, underlined, lahat.
Italics and everything, ibang kulay,
Exactly.
ibang kulay ka na letter.
Just so you can... So
Right. Yeah, so now let's talk about communities. And when people talk about communities, minsan inisip nila, mga kapitbahay and everything. But in reality, communities viewed more as an ecosystem or support unit. You mentioned kanina kasi there's a totally different experience when you have a partner for a business. That's actually part of something like a community. So, having a business partner kasi you have to understand din yung kanilang personality, how they think the business should be. How would you, and I'm sure maraming businesses dyan na partnership ang set up.
Yes.
Like, minsan nga, parang kuwari ako tsaka asawa ko, may business kami, so we're partners. How should a partner, kumbaga parang, the considerations that you have to give. Ano yung mga kailangan mag-match kayo before yung masabi magkasucceed kayo?
Right, so what we usually do when we have a workshop on entrepreneurship is we do some sort of, diba, may SWOT analysis. No? So we ask partners or those who will become part of the group, corporation, whatsoever, regardless of the type, to list down their strengths.
Okay.
So after that,
personal strength.
yeah, personal strengths, no? And but of course before that, dapat clear, no? Ano bang gusto natin mangyari? What is the business, no? Hindi ka agad-agad isulat yung vision, mission, not necessary, but at least even in terms of phrases, keywords, nandun. Okay, para there's some sort of understanding. So after that, what we usually do is, and I do this myself, no? Understand the strengths of each one. Kasi ang pinakamahirap na mangyari dyan is magkabanggaan kayo. Especially when pag lumaki na, and even during the start pa lang, you have to know and have a clear understanding of what you're supposed to do. So once you've listed down your strengths, you discuss. Okay, magaling pala ako dito sa marketing, ikaw magaling ka sa operation. So, and I always go by, okay, the standard na, okay, what are the 4 functions of management, right? So there's HR, there's sales, operations, and also, what did I leave out? HR, sales, operations, and of course, accounting. So, meron talagang in charge, at least, of certain functions. Let's say, kung dalawa lang kayo, diba? 2 may be in charge of certain 2 functions and 2 a set of functions, and that's what makes it more effective and efficient. Because if you're clear as to what you're supposed to do or what is your deliverable, when you have regular meetings, ganun kayo mag-usap.
So technically, it's also advisable for if you're say you're a one-man show type entrepreneur for the meantime, that when you understand the name of the weaknesses mo, saan ka kulang, and you get a partner who's strong at that.
Exactly.
Diba? And I'll give you an example. I had 3 businesses with partners. The first business namin, lahat kami puro salespeople.
Oh, okay.
Ang galing namin magbenta. Pero wala maka-follow through. Yung pag i-deliver mo na yung produkto, doon kami mahina. Yung sumunod naman na business namin, so ako, I was in charge of sales. The other one was in charge of the logistics side kasi we were parang distributing a certain type of medicine. Hindi siya illegal medicines, ha? This is a legal company.
Okay.
But our weakness was in the documentation side of things. Kasi meron ka mga import documents and everything like that. So ganun, no? So pag partnership, talaga dapat work with the strengths of everyone.
Yes.
Because ang dami nating naririnig ng mga negosyo, partnership, and then after 2 years, 3 years, nag-awa yung mag-partner. Just because they couldn't agree on one single, na kailangan pala at the onset na identify, ikaw ang magde-decide on this thing, ikaw ang magde-decide on this thing. So that's more advisable, yeah.
That's more advisable. And of course, the personalities of partners. It's not saying that you look into the, the zodiac signs or what. No? Sometimes I do. Kasi there are partners with strong personalities, right? And it's really everyone's love for the business or belief. Kasi it's hard, even if like for instance, I had an experience, no? I was the admin of a certain company that I had before. And others were in operations, particularly IT, tapos merong sales. So kahit na kumpleto, the hard part is if you can really withstand one another and understand. That's where culture comes in, the values of the people, tsaka, each one has a problem naman talaga, no? So, minsan may mawawala, minsan, tahimik lang, minsan masaya, and kailangan you put it into your mind na intindihin mo yung kasama mo. It's very hard kasi we're just people, no? Minsan, mag-burst or what, but the mere fact na each one of you has a very, a relationship with love in it, no? It helps. Like, for example, in our production company, which just started, may mga times na I'm sure tampuhan or what, but in effect, pag nagiging personal, kamusta ka, ha? Diba? May mga ganon. So, there's love inside that keeps the business going. I know that people say na huwag ihalo yung business and personal, but it's a different level when you are on top as the partners.
Yes, the partners.
So, that's what I can share. Kasi some ventures, like the one I mentioned earlier, kahit sobrang ganda ng business model, parang hindi namin kaya to withstand and understand each other. So instead of us just, arguing and pag may loss of trust na, wala.
Iba yan sa mag-asawa kasi mag-asawa wala kayong magagawa.
Actually,
You're legally bound.
Isip ko na, what am I talking about?
You're legally bound. You cannot just divorce. Diba? We're not in the States.
Yeah,
anyway,
true.
So I understand kasi in terms of community, a community is where culture and values will come out from.
Definitely.
Because culture and values is not dictated by one single person. It's dictated by the unification of all, diba? Parang
yes.
So, like you mentioned kanina, as partners, you now decide on what are your strengths, and you also have to decide on what are the core values that you have to espouse for your business. Yes. So normally kapag ganon, how do you make sure that those core values that you and your partners will have is driven down to your people and the way of working in terms of the business and all those?
Actually, right now, during the pandemic, mas mahirap siya because it's digital. Iba pa rin ang face-to-face.
Yes.
That's why even for us, we are trying to push for a meeting, no? Of course, following all the guidelines, na we'd have some sort of team building, rapport building as well. Kasi iba talaga when you feel the person with you, when the person speaks, kasi ang hirap ngayon puro messenger, etc. No? But moving back to that, if assuming everything will get better, and generally speaking, the way to really bring down the core values is to stand by it and do it. Like, for example, in our consulting firm, when I say when it comes to clients, we will really respect them no matter what. No? Of course, I've had clients na masusungit din, but hindi natin sila awayan, we will respect them. Siyempre, may limitation. So, nakita nila kung gaano ka dedicated ako when it comes to customer relationships. And in the same way, kasi sinasama ko din sila, and I always tell them na, pagka-kliyente talaga, we have to make sure na masaya sila. They eventually becomes part of their system as well.
I have a good question on that now. It wasn't far ago, a week, 2 weeks ago, one of our members in our community asked also that, how and when you stop a relationship with a customer? Kasi, ang storya kasi niya was, the customer is already asking them to do something that is already against the values of the company. So if you said that we have to treat our customers like king and all those things, at what point do you say, sorry, but I think I'll have to end my relationship with you?
Very good question. Kasi nangyari sa akin yan din recently, na in as much as you would want to have more customers, diba? We actually hindi naman decline, or we assess them. So just like when you have employees, and when you have partners na dapat aligned siya sa company values, important din sa customers na they respect you, they trust you. That's it, actually, the respect and the trust. Because on our end, we've had customers na, syempre, they always want to follow up, diba? Or they always want to make sure na everything is in order. But there comes a time kasi na, of course, I also value the employees na kapag na it's too much for them. And we feel like, we can't handle the customer anymore because there's no more trust. We let go in a nicer manner. We would let them know na we can actually do this, we can guide you. Well, it's some sort of a better way, to still maintain the friendship, but no longer the business relationship.
Yes, true. Okay, that's very nice, huh? Well, that's always something we talk about din naman. Always maintain a relationship, but not necessarily a relationship like before, the client-customer business relationship is totally different. But again, the values of the business and the values of the person has to come first.
Totoo.
Diba? If you're breaking the values, you're breaking yourself.
That's true.
Para ka nagpapaula-alila na dun sa...
Exactly. That's the right
nice.
That's actually what we experienced also.
Yeah.
Because actually, pinatagal naman to. Because that's one of our first clients. So, parang sayang naman. But not at the expense of, kumbaga, your emotions, your mental health. Kasi, masistress ka na eh. And how can you work efficiently kapag sobrang stressed ka? Diba?
Yeah.
So, it took a while for us to realize.
Okay, so in terms of communities, when you were starting your business, and even now, when you have so many businesses, how much support system are you getting from communities? Like maybe you have mentors even before back then when you were 16 years old. Do you still get more and more mentors, support systems?
Actually, the nice thing about where I studied is we were taught to have a mentor-mentee relationship. And then from there, and my uncles would always tell me, find a mentor. So I have several types of mentors from before and until now. And
Several types, huh?
Yeah. One is a mentor for family, spiritual guidance. Another would be for business, many in terms of business. And one would be more holistic, general. So I'm very fortunate, I may say, that I meet mentors because I feel like, because I meet them, I'm also supposed to do the same and mentor other people, which is what I'm doing now.
Yes. So last na, ang haba na pag-usapan natin. Last question. No, this time, I asked this for some of my guests, and sometimes in some webinars. If there is a statement you can do, which I can say, #Dore said this, or I can always reference Shannon sabi nito, what would that be?
Parang hirap yan.
Actually, mahirap siya, di ba? Kasi yung iba sinasabi, I will quote Bill Gates. I will quote Elon Musk. Now, I will quote Dore.
Is it more of a hashtag or a...
It's up to you.
Well, kasi in my mind, it's about them reaching out to me. Me being a friend, me being someone you could reach it. So it's hashtag, like, Ask Dear Dore.
Actually, nice! And you have that platform, Dear Dore.
Yeah.
Hashtag Ask Dear Dore.
Yeah, because I really like to listen to people and to talk to them. Parang ako yung ating dapat mag-psych.
Baka ikaw dapat mag-psych. That's one thing I've learned in psychology. Especially when I had my units in clinical psychology. Alam mo, stressful yung mga kilig, ha?
Talaga.
Stressful always, ito yung sinabi sa akin ng professor ko in clinical psychology. You yourself need to have your own psychologist or psychiatrist or friend. Kasi, as you're taking in the negativity, kailangan ilabas mo yun siya.
Yeah.
Diba? Sabi ko nga, so ma'am, pag tinigit ko yung negativity niya, ilalabas ko sa kanya, iikot lang sa atin lahat yun, mabalik-balik. Anyway, naman so over there. But yeah, that's nice, ha? Hashtag,
Ask Dear Dory.
sasamahan ko ng tagline sa ilalim.
Sige.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Yun.
Diba?
Now I have something to use. Thank you.